I agree with you.
That's just me. Even though like some of our most beloved listeners sometimes vehemently disagree with us
That's
because
right.
they tell us, as they tell us, y'all have me yelling at the radio in the morning or at the computer screen or at my telephone.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's because you're wrong. if
Uh,
you if you get right, you won't be so angry.
if you just line up with the right opinion, you'll be all right.
I mean, is it our fault that you're on the wrong side on this? Yeah. So listen, who are these two opinionated people? Well, sitting across from me is Bishop Dwayne David Royster,
And sitting across from me is the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler.
and somebody that we know that's always right. It is none other than Queen Kawesa.
Kuwaisa.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
Doing okay. Doing okay.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't sound like you're okay. Just the way you said that suggests that there's something else going on.
Oh no, I'm perfect. I'm wonderful.
You're perfect. Well,
Yeah.
how was the ride in this morning? We need our weather and traffic updates.
Ride was easy today. It was
Yeah.
easy. No traffic. Nobody was cutting up on the road. Like it was a nice breezy drive in. It was nice. I didn't have anything to worry about. The temp. It's a little muggy, like humid. I feel like because there's going to be some thunderstorms a little bit later in the day, and the temperature's going up, so the air is thick. It's a little thick, but and cloudy. But besides that, not too bad. Not too bad
Was
at
it
all.
jacket day or a t-shirt day or a long sleeve day?
I am wearing what is this, quarter length sleeves. I opted to not wear a jacket and I felt fine outside. So I think that if you decide to, go out in the short sleeves, you'll be okay. But I just don't know if it's gonna it looks like the heavens are gonna open up. Like it looks like it's gonna downpour at some point today. So keep an eye on
Gotcha.
that. Hmm.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you, Koisa. We appreciate you sharing weather, traffic, and clothing updates.
all of the above, and you need to, I mean, look, you need to know this stuff, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
even for a information based, opinionated talk show,
Hmm.
at this time of morning, people want to know when they're getting ready. Like, do I need to, what do I
Yeah.
need to wear? Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold? Is it going to rain? What's the traffic look like? And so thank you, Kwesa, for preventing people to have to go to other stations to get that info. We sure appreciate it. And listen, today, um, I want to talk a little bit about the attack on critical race theory and the organized attack against it that I think, if black folk are not paying attention, we may miss
Hmm.
because they coming for it. And I mean,
Oh,
they coming for it with money.
that's
They
absolutely true.
they throwing some dollars behind it, bruh.
Well, actually, it's funny. I had to come back to my house in Maryland last night, took the train down, and was sitting up watching the news late last night, which is actually something I don't normally do because I go to bed early because we get up early. And in Loudoun County, Virginia,
Hmm.
there were dueling protests outside a school board meeting because white parents are upset that the Loudoun County School Board is teaching critical race theory to their children.
Mm.
And so Black Lives Matter was out there on one side, and these white parents, with some
Mm.
black parents, were out there on the other side.
Wow.
And let's see, one of the parents that was interviewed said that this is teaching our children to hate one another. And I'm sitting there like, American history is itself problematic. I'm like, here's the problem with people who don't like critical race theory. They're not very critical in their thinking skills.
Right. Well, yeah. So Mark Lamont Hill, Mark is a friend of ours and is also hosting. He has the big evening slot now on the Black News Network, and actually, I found it now, so I actually have an alert for it to pop up all the time.
Mhm.
And I saw on his social media feed a clip with the Black House representative from I want to say Utah.
Okay.
I think it's Burgess. Used to play for the Raiders.
Okay.
So sad. I think he got hit too much. It was back in the day when they had bad helmets, right? I mean, I think this dude got like some serious something wrong because he's obviously carrying the Republican line, which I get it. You got to, if that's the team you chose to play with now, you got to say what they say. So he came out against critical race theory, And so Mark was like, okay, I get that you're against critical race theory because you're a Republican, but tell me like what about it you're against? He said, what do you mean? I'm against it. He said, yeah, I know, but so what about it troubles you? I don't need to tell you that. I'm just telling you I'm against it. We don't need to be teaching it. Like,
In
can you
other
tell
words,
me?
I have no idea what it means.
Right. He said, so can you give me a working definition for it? Yeah, it's that thing that we don't need to be teaching. I mean, like literally, that's how the conversation went back and forth. And it's as to your point, it's like, bro, come on, man. I mean, let's have a real conversation, right? I mean, if in an abortion debate, for example, the both sides are very passionate about pro-life and pro-choice, but at least both sides can articulate why they are for their position. You know what I mean? So, well, because life, starts immediately at conception. No, it doesn't. And I mean, you can have that. No, critical race theory is no, it's divisive. Why is
Mm-hmm.
it divisive? Because it makes people hate America. Why? Because slaves were happy and docile.
Mm-hmm.
No, they weren't. That's probably what they told your great great grandparents to like stop from being whipped. How you feel today? Happy, sir?
Yeah, yeah. Like, this debate has caused people to be less than critical thinkers. Just to say,
Less than. So Leslie said he needed more talking points.
yeah,
So
that's an understatement. He needed some support from you to get some coaching.
right, he needed a producer in his ear.
That's right. He needed somebody to tell him what to say.
Listen, I bring this up in all seriousness. And if you're on Facebook Live this morning, hit the share button. If you're on YouTube, likewise, share this out. We see you all. Thank you. And drop your comments about this debate in the chat. We'll be happy to read some of them. And, but yeah, so, I mean, this is now formalizing into some real resistance on the other side. And my concern is that by the time we realize what has happened,
Mhm.
it will be too late. Because
Uh,
school boards are critically important in this debate.
yeah.
School boards decide curriculum, they decide who the top administrator is going to be, and if that person will come in and politicize the office or come in and try to do what's best for students. And so there is a national super PAC funded by conservatives
Hmm.
that is all about going after school board elections and
Yes.
running people out of office who will
Support.
not. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, if you're going to get on school board and you will not basically do the new litmus test, which is I'm against critical race theory. I will not allow the 1619 project to be taught or anything that's going to really tell the truth about American race relations. Then we're going to run you out of office.
Well, I mean, honestly, that's how the Tea Party started, right? So, I mean,
Good
we
point.
should be
Good point.
very aware of that. That one of the ways that I mean, they talk about this, the 1619 project doing a revisionist job on history. I
Hmm.
mean, the conservatives, the Tea Party, their original point of entry and building of power was going after school boards across the state, across the country.
Really?
And they actually, yeah, that's how they
I didn't know
started. They
that.
started by putting people on school boards and
Mm.
changing curriculums. And then and once people got on the school boards, they started launching them into town councils, and they started working on state reps, and that's how the Tea Party got started. So a super PAC going after school boards around critical race theory is really just a base for them to be able to start building a new level of conservative politicians that will have some credibility on issues that they think are important. And this is actually a very Trump-esque move here. I mean, the Tea Party in general just wasn't doing racial stuff; they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right.
But these folk are going to use race, which is the raison d'etre, the reason to be today, that we talk about the things that we fight about, and wrestle with about race. They're going to use that as a vehicle to build political power, and that's what that's all about.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's wow. So I didn't know that part of the history about the rise of the Tea Party, but that makes a lot of sense. And so right, so you build the base first with local organizing,
Yep,
which
absolutely,
is kind of what we do, right? You start.
absolutely what we do, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you can't start you don't start for the state. You got to start local and have these strong
Right.
local groups that then get together. And so that being said, again, I don't think we should take this for granted, right? And so across the country, these citywide protests are starting to happen. So all of a sudden, I look up, and Leslie and I moved here to this area back in the early part of the 2000s from Cincinnati,
Hmm.
and so we got family. Obviously, Leslie has a ton of family there. And one of the schools that a family member was considering sending their child to, that they chose not to because they felt like, this is a pretty racist school. And that's just kind of their feeling.
Right.
Turns out that school Forest Hill School in the Cincinnati area right now, let's see, Nagel Middle School in Anderson Township, their goal is to keep critical race theory out of Forest Hill schools. This, according to WLWT Channel 5. And
Hmm.
there was a protest. So you got all these like teenagers and parents out there with these signs: stop critical race theory, stop CRT. And they are protesting. And I got to tell you, Cincinnati is the perfect place for them to organize. It's not a
Yeah.
very welcoming place for black folk.
Now, I've been to Cincinnati before, and well, it's actually interesting though because Cincinnati has actually a large black population, um, but it is not. I don't know. There's something about that Kentucky-Ohio border that's a little strange. My brother lived in Hebron, Kentucky, right across from Cincinnati. It's near the airport.
That was his first mistake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of
He,
all,
he should
Hebron,
have crossed
Kentucky.
over.
It sounds like it looks
Right.
like it sounds. Okay, let me just say.
Oh, look, I know Hebron, Kentucky, and like I said, that was his first mistake. He should have just like crossed over. There ain't no toll, Stone. Cross the bridge and come into the Natty, which
I
ain't better.
yeah, I hear you. But when we used to go out and visit, man, I was like, oh, what's up with these folks? You know, have you ever been to the mall and like you might be in a white area in the mall and you see a black person in the mall and you're in the mall and you sort of do that head nod thing like an acknowledgement that,
Sure.
like if something breaks out in here, I got you. I know where you are, right? Man, we were walking through the mall and like we were looking folk, kind of giving the nod, and I mean the nod has worked everywhere across the country.
Yeah.
So we're in this mall in Hebron, and I'm, just trying to give people the nod, and they're like looking frightened, like, "Oh my God, did you just nod at me?" And I'm like, "What is up with these people? Like, we're the only black folk in this place, Can we?" And it was, so yeah, that's what I'm saying about Hebron. Hebron was that was the sticks, man. That was the sticks. It's like out being out there in Carlisle or Tawanda, right? It was just in the middle of. I mean, there's the airport, and then there's like nothing.
Well,
So
right. I mean, it's like right. So imagine. So Cincinnati is not much better. Is my point. And when you move into the city proper, um, I mean, you have just a lot of the same issues that we find all over the country. No different, but it is again. You would imagine, because there is such a large black population, that things would be slightly different than it actually is. So right now, parents are organizing, and this is gonna have an impact on these local school board elections. And so at a time where you would imagine that the country is moving toward more honest conversation around race. I mean, look, and so for people who say, well, what does that mean? What does it matter? It actually matters because people who become police officers, for example, typically come through the K through 12 system. I
mhm,
mean, maybe a
right.
handful are homeschooled,
Mhm.
but the vast majority of cops come through somebody's K through 12. And so if you are coming through K through 12 and you are having all of the wrong things reinforced in your schooling and your education, and when you meet black people on the streets and these encounters go from just something that should be simply routine to something that just blows up. I mean, a la, Daniel Green in Louisiana, which we need to talk
Right.
about later today,
Right.
about the body cam footage and the top cop suppressing them and all that stuff. That all of this has, I mean, it plays itself out everywhere. It plays itself out in the appraisals of homes, as we talked about, right?
Mhm.
And if the appraiser has a bias against black people that they carry into writing their appraisal, which can literally have a $100,000 difference in
Right.
your home equity. It plays out in mortgage decision, granting of mortgages, and assigning how many, points on your interest. I mean, literally it plays out everywhere. So we need to be moving in a place where we have more honest conversation about race and America's history of race, not one that is more dishonest. But what do you expect in a country where, again, half the country apparently is willing to follow a man like Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, I think it's actually, I think I heard, was it Dr. Cassandra Gould said this not too long ago. I saw a post that she made something like this. You know, white folk don't want their kids taught critical race theory because they are afraid it's going to affect them, but they don't really care about the black and brown children that are being oppressed every single day by the lack of understanding of critical race theory, right? And it's like it's pitting children against children and not being able to have an honest conversation about how this country has evolved and the issues and the challenges about racial oppression, white supremacy in this nation. White families and white parents are up in arms because they're going to realize that their golden perches and their white privilege and their position places in society are going to be looked at and challenged and questioned, and as they should be. This is the system, and what we are teaching currently is actually causing racial division. It is not bringing about racial healing.
Right. Well, we got to take a quick break. It's 6:22 here at WURD. We'll be right back on the other side of the break to continue this conversation. It's the Power Hour.
COVID's put life on pause way too long. Vaccines prevent nearly 100% of hospitalizations and death from COVID-19. So far, over 100 million people have decided to press play by getting theirs. And now everyone 12 and older can get one. Keep listening for vaccine locations close to you, or text your zip code to 438-829. Message and data rates apply. We can do this. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Solomon Jones. I'm the morning drive host of Wake Up with Word here at WURD Radio in Philadelphia. This time last year, we couldn't go to work, school, church, or even out to eat. We were all separated and trying to be safe at home. People we knew and loved were getting sick and dying from COVID-19. Well, now there's a vaccine. It's safe, it's available, and it's free. Get the vaccine. It's the right thing to do. Think about those who got sick or died. Think about what they would tell you to do. And then do what I did. Get your free COVID-19 vaccine at blackdoctorsconsortium.com.
Hi, this is Samantha from Leo's Apparel on Germantown and Lehigh Ave. Open from 9:30 to 5:30 Monday through Saturday. We have the hottest selection of boys' dress suits and casual sportswear for boys sizes 2T to 20. Men, let me tell you, we got in a large shipment of straws from Stetson. We have new linen and dress suits. Biggest selection of Stacy Adams shoes. Get an extra WURD 10% discount.
Employers, are you hiring? WURD has got you covered. We just launched a brand new job portal to help connect you with diverse talent in Philadelphia and beyond. To have your job featured on our job portal, give us a call at 215-425-7875 or send us an email at sales@wordradio.com. Check out the job portal today on our livelihood website at wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com and click jobs. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We're here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news, happenings around Philadelphia, and, of course, our opinion. And we have plenty of them, plenty of opinions to share. Now, I had to respond back to Raphael, because Raphael accused me. He said, "What is your qualification, Bishop, to tell someone else that they aren't critical thinkers?" That's a very arrogant statement, bro. And I had to say to Raphael, I'm listening to these people's arguments against critical race theory. They're not very critical.
Yeah.
They're just not. There's not an analysis. There's no analysis there to be addressed one way or another. And then just the other point is critical race theory, and this is actually an important piece. that you talk about, because it actually addresses economics and other social issues through the lens of race. And actually, part of the problem that we have in this country and why we haven't been able to solve poverty and other issues is because we looked at economics clearly as a class issue. And it's not just a class issue, it's a class and a race issue. And you can't deal with it until you can't deal with economics and poverty until you include the issues of white supremacy and how race manifests itself in economics, trying to keep a permanent underclass. So that's why critical race theory is absolutely so critical. And this is why we need critical race theory to look at economic issues, because once you begin to look at economics through a class and race lens, you begin to see and understand more critically why we are in the economic conditions that we are in today, like Philadelphia.
And poor white folks should see it that way, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, because
it's actually a wedge. They're used as a wedge to keep black and brown folk in place. And this is why critical race theory is so critical. Poor white folk ought to line up with black and brown folk and stop trying to go after and line up with rich white folk, because they're actually hurting them. They're not helping them.
Well, because they have, look, poor white folk have been given counterfeit money. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is, so they've been told that there's currency in their whiteness. And whiteness is something that not all of so remember, Italians, when they first came to America, were not deemed white. They were deemed something other than, and so they were kind of gradually given whiteness.
Right.
The Irish were not treated like white people. The Anglo-Saxon, right? I mean, it's every group.
Anglo-Saxon Protestant, right? That was the definition of whiteness.
So each one has been kind of like given it. It's like, here, we now give you the currency of whiteness. Now, it won't buy you food. It won't pay your bills. It's not going to send your kids to college, but at least you're better than those people. And so, and people have bought into that mythology, right? I mean, because listen, I mean, I ride my motorcycle everywhere. You all know that. And I'm telling you again, riding across this country repeatedly and riding through these back roads, it is obvious to me that poor white working and those who wish they were working folk have much more in common with our inner cities. The only difference is, instead of being mashed together in high-rise apartments, they are spread out, but they are suffering the exact same. But, you know, if you can teach and indoctrinate someone and make them believe that somehow they are superior and that, you know, that you have nothing to do with these people, and somehow, in fact, these people are stealing your privilege. That's why you're living like this. I mean, look, the people who benefit from this are the handful of people who have all of the wealth consolidated.
That's right.
I mean, and yet,
honestly, if they keep poor and middle-class white folk battling with poor and middle-class black and brown folk, then we're so busy battling each other, they're going to do whatever the heck they want to do, and nobody's watching them to stop them from doing it, right?
I mean, right, listen, who do you think is going to pay for this super PAC that's going to go out and try to defeat critical race theory? A bunch of poor white people?
That's right, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Poor white people are not paying for this. This money is coming from somewhere, from someone who has a vested interest in keeping us divided. That's and right. It is, you know, and that is, and so you get, so again, you know, it's easy to kind of play people this way if people have already kind of, you know, kind of are leaning this direction. So, yeah, man, I tell you what, so Raphael says, many European indentured servants came here. Yeah, they were, I mean, look, white America tried to enslave white people first. Can we not forget that?
But they were indentured, right? So it was only for a period of time. It was a period of time.
Well, of course, but I mean, so right, so but it didn't work anyway. Because what did they do? They slipped away and they became, instead of like, I don't know, O'Doyle, they became John Smith.
Right.
It's like, you should have a funny accent, John Smith. Oh yeah. You know, had some dental work done. Right? But they slipped into the community and they tried to enslave, you know, indigenous people here, but they knew the land too well, and it just, you couldn't keep them. And so finally you get us, and it's like, well, why do 7 years? Because I mean, you're already here. It's not like you can go anywhere. Let's flip the script and make them slaves for life and make their progeny. Right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I mean, so yeah, we know the history well, but again, when you talk about going forward, it just seems like this would be common sense to people that there is more in common. The labor movement in the 1920s and 30s was making headway,
Hmm.
but it just kind of exploded and went the opposite direction. And here we are. So let's see, Robert Garland, I have a white male, 32-year-old relative by marriage. He sags his pants, knows every lyric to every little Uzi Vert song, but hates black people. It's astounding.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. He married into the family? And he hates black people.
Except one, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lola over on YouTube says the truth, going back a little bit in our conversation, truth has to be told. No city is welcoming to blacks. We have made our way and fought for all our rights in this country in all these cities. I'm sick of Tom Cotton holding up the George Floyd bill. So, I mean, yeah, and I saw somebody else had a comment about, the American South. I mean, look, Minneapolis is about as north as you can get. And we had a pastor on yesterday and an activist out of Minneapolis who said he's been there since 1969, 1970, and it's pretty racist. And then what we saw with George Floyd is typical of what's going on there. I mean, so the American South is pretty much wherever you are.
Yeah, because Minnesota's pretty north. I mean, Minneapolis is way north.
Welcome to Anchorage, Alaska. The South, we call it the South of the North, right? I mean, yeah. So anyway, so let's be on the lookout for this. And I think more than anything else, the reason I brought it up is that there needs to be some kind of counter organizing, and we need to support those places that are not Philadelphia's, right? So that's not going to ever impact a Philly, that kind of organizing around critical race theory and what have you. But to your point earlier, lifting up, Carlisle and Gettysburg and Lancaster and Harrisburg and Reading and those other places around the country that are the soft spots for these kind of efforts, that they need support financially and otherwise for people to be there for them, because it's already hard enough as it is. The last thing we need are more textbooks talking about the happy, docile slave.
Well, I mean, yeah, you got that right. I mean, a lot of this was perpetuated by Trump's attacks on the 1619 Project.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, there's been battles about this going on for years. So when I was in college, actually it was really interesting. One of my closest friends at the time had eventually became a very conservative talk show host in Manchester, New Hampshire, who was on the school board in Manchester. Mm-hmm. We have an organizing group in Manchester, New Hampshire, Granite State Organizing Project. And he was actually trying to get slavery taken out of teach and being taught in the school district. And our organizing group up there actually has a youth component, and they were fighting back against this. And he called me to ask me to help him. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I went up one side of him, down another about, what he was trying to do. He was trying to ban books. He was a Rick Santorum supporter, right? So he wanted Rick Santorum to be president. It was a whole mess. And I actually wound up having to go up there and, had to meet with him face to face and tell him to back down. So wow. The folk get really caught up in this stuff, and they just have this way of viewing the world that's just not very real.
Well, so here's the problem. All right, and I mean, let's look. So Nikki O'Tim on YouTube says, it's all about keeping the lie alive, telling us George Washington chopped down the cherry tree when actually he stole his slave's teeth. If you never read that story by Michael Cord, by the way, in the Philadelphia Tribune, Michael has a show here at WURD, local attorney and activist, very powerful story about how Washington's quote unquote wooden teeth were actually the teeth of the enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't actually steal them. He just underpaid for them. So people
stole them.
No, people would sell their teeth back then. They would literally, poor people would sell their teeth to make dentures for wealthy people. And so he did buy, according to Michael, he bought the teeth from his enslaved people, like they had a choice. but he didn't pay them as much as he would have paid a free white person.
Mm.
So he got them on pennies on the dollar, so to speak. What a bargain. But I mean, but so, I mean, look, the thing about history is this, and I love history, you know, so it's my passion, that it's okay that you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? That people can be both at times heroic and a piece of trash. They can, people, that's all of us, is it not?
That's true.
I mean, you know, we like to clean up our history and we like to present the best part of ourselves. But the truth be told, most of us have done some pretty crappy things that we're not proud about, historically speaking. And there's probably, and they're like family members who like probably hate everybody that's listening right now has got a family member that if somebody asked them about you, they're going to be like, I don't care what they just said at the funeral. Let me tell you how that blankety blank blank really was. You know, because that's real history.
That's right.
But this idea that somehow telling a full picture of the founders, for example, right? That, yeah, you should have kicked the British out, but you also should have freed black folk.
That's
and
right.
that we can talk about both of those things without it being, it has to be either one of these things or the other one of these things, because that is never how history is. But this refusal to be honest is what has us right now at a place where literally the people who were hiding under desks on January the 6th as people hunted them to kill them and had gallows outside are saying, January 6th? They were just tourists. Tourists.
That's revisionist. That's revisionist history right there, right?
That's what the whole thing is, right?
That's They were tourists. They were just here to see their state capital. That's revisionist history.
So y'all are stuck on the teeth story. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. I know. I should probably warned you about that because you're probably drinking your coffee this morning and you probably don't want it anymore. Andres says, someone steals my teeth, we fighting. Just saying. LOL. Rob Garland, that's gruesome. Yeah, I mean, you know, hey, that's George, man. First president, also took other people's teeth.
That is, that's sick. So anyway, that's a whole other.
Look, Lola says, come on, Rev. He pulled their teeth off. What choice did they have? Like they could say.
Yeah, I mean, that's my whole thing. I'm like, I don't think they really had a choice in the matter.
You know, I don't know. I mean, look, he did pay him. He just underpaid him. Said, man, where you been? Oh, George. Who? George. Where'd you get that money? Don't ask about it. George Washington took people's teeth, and somehow our history books told you and me that they were wooden.
That's right. They were wooden.
No, they weren't. And critical. So you have people raising money, super PACs, to prevent that story that Michael Kors brought out. So people are spending millions of dollars to defeat school board candidates who are fine with telling both stories of George Washington. They don't want that story coming out.
Yes. And that is the way that America is going to be moving for the time being, right? Billionaires and others whose privilege and who want white folk to be seen as the epitome of what it means to be an American are going to fight anything that would potentially disparage their ancestry. And it's really not even so much about their ancestry.
Yeah.
It's about the fact that eventually somebody's going to realize that the pathway to reparations is not through the government. The pathway to reparations is through corporations that have made billions and trillions of dollars off the misery of black and brown bodies that continually are making that money today. And it's time that they gave their money back to the people whose oppression and suffering that they have caused and their antecedents. And that's really what the issue is going to be.
Yeah. That you ought to look, because that's why in America there's been such a fight about the government making a public apology about slavery. because to apologize for it is to acknowledge that a wrong was done and that the government, participated in it and even benefited from it.
Right.
And if that acknowledgement is made, now you actually have a legal basis, a lot of people think, to then take it to court. So look, we got to take a quick break. It's 6:41. And speaking of like withholding information, let's talk about Louisiana. And I said Daniel earlier, but I meant the late Ronald Green, who was killed in 2019 after his car, quote unquote, had an impact. They left out the other part, like tased multiple times, beaten, handcuffed till he died. But we'll talk about that because more information is coming out about this awful story as Louisiana tries its best to act like school boards trying to hide critical race theory. This is the Power Hour. Don't go anywhere.
Clark Roofing Company has over 30 years of quality roofing experience, providing exceptional customer service, honesty, and professionalism. Clark Roofing is a second-generation master roofer, installing top-quality roofing systems for commercial and residential properties across the tri-state area. For fast, dependable service, call 215-365-ROOF. That's 215-365-7663.
The Black Words Book Club. Word Radio's conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The next book for June is Taught by Women, Poems as Resistance Language by Hakeem Adabuti. Be sure to listen live as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it, Tuesday, June 8th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for Word members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color. The Word Radio newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting wordradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on Word Radio, messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources. Stay informed with the Word Radio newsletter. Now, a traffic update on Word Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by Mattress Firm. Looking at 95 southbound, getting busy. Common to Bridge through construction again. Allegheny through Girard northbound. Looking good. Vine Expressway westbound. Slowing down through Broad. Lake Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway. Schuylkill itself both ways not bad as of yet this morning. Boulevard of Route 1 southbound. Some slowing broad down the Fox through construction. 55 northbound building north of Deptford into 42 now. It's Mattress Firm's best Memorial Day sale ever. For a limited time, save up to $500 on top-rated mattress brands like Sealy and Sleepy's. Plus, get a free adjustable base with your $6.99 mattress purchase. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a Word weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Partly sunny, hot, and humid today, and afternoon storms will start to take shape later in the afternoon and into the evening hours. A high of 91. Clearing out tomorrow, sunshine and less humid, a high of 85 degrees for Thursday, then turning rainy and cool on Friday with a high of 68. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We are turning our attention deeper into the South, the Deep South now, going down into Louisiana.
Oh, my Lord. You know, when you talk about Louisiana, it's either going to be a really good story or a really bad story. There's really never any middle ground when you talk about black folk in Louisiana.
It's like Florida.
It's either Mardi Gras, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, something like that. It's all good. Or it's this story, right? Ronald Green, who we talked about last week, who was killed while in custody, heart-wrenching video. As he was, being tased, and he's saying to the officers, "I'm your brother, man. I'm your brother."
Mm.
Man, that part, you know what I mean? Just like that part, right, really just messed me up. And so, but it is it's a story that has a continually changing narrative. And I'm really hypersensitive to this because of the Brandon Tate Brown story. That likewise in Philadelphia, how the story continually changed.
Mm-hmm.
And that family, in my opinion, never got justice for what happened to Brandon. And hopefully one day they will. But it's the same thing. And this is why I don't get caught up in the first draft that you hear from law enforcement. And I think news media outlets in particular need to be more critical about how they report these things, because the first draft then shapes public opinion, right?
Right.
So the first draft of this story was, suspect died upon impact after a high-speed chase by law enforcement.
Right.
Oh, okay. Man, guy ran away from police, ran into something, killed himself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dang, man, that's tragic, but dude, you should have just pulled over. And that's kind of how most people walk away from it. Then it's like, oh, well, actually, there's a little bit more to this. Well, apparently he wasn't actually dead after the crash, and there was a little scuffle, but he resisted arrest, and then he died for resisting.
Mm.
And we don't have any body cam footage. It's like, oh, well, actually we do have footage, and the footage pretty much contradicts everything that has been said before.
Right.
Add to this, the senior ranking officer on the scene, there were like 6 cops involved in this,
Mm-hmm.
Said to investigators at the beginning, he did not have body cam footage of his own of the arrest or of the entire incident that led to Ronald Green's death. Held to that story, and lo and behold, we got a 30-minute tape from him.
30 minutes.
30-minute body cam footage.
Wow.
And it tells a totally different story of what actually happened on that day.
Mm. Mm.
I mean, this is the thing that you can't legislate against. I mean, and so listen, so Joe Simmons, if you're listening, I mean, as I tell you all the time, I totally get why you say abolish the police. Again, I don't, I'm going to say the same thing I always say, that, yeah, I hear you, but it ain't workable. But it's stories like this that drive people to that point. And so I absolutely understand it, understand the sentiment. But I mean, this is the piece about police accountability and why police departments cannot be trusted to police themselves.
And wait a minute, let me just point something out here.
Sure.
In this particular case, it was the Louisiana State Police and the Union Parish Sheriff's Office.
Mm.
So, I mean, if this was not just one law enforcement agency that was involved in this, there were 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the governor's actually coming out and very frustrated with the state police, because they're supposed to be held to a higher standard than the local cops are supposed to be. And
yeah,
they
because
don't think about this either.
Well, right, because in most states, I mean, the thought is that at least you can get a better deal by state troopers.
Right.
But and a lot of times that's true, but
I mean, in some states, actually, when they have these involved shootings, they use the state police to investigate what the local municipalities are doing. So who's investigating this one?
Like I said, usually, you know what I mean? And so, right. But yeah, but so listen, I'm telling you, Roy, so this is why I continue to say that having independent civilian oversight that is not connected to the governor, for example, not connected to the mayor or to the county commissioners or whomever, but its own independent body where you can have rank and file, citizens as a part of, giving oversight is one of the first steps toward reining in this out of control policing. Because the reason they get away with this is, look, everybody is willing to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear. and and just like, well, I don't want to get involved in that because, I don't know, man. When my time comes, I want people to have my back. Who had Ronald Green's back?
That's right.
I mean, it's 6 people on top of him. He's, yes, you're pissed because he led you on a high-speed chase. I get it. It's hard to rein in emotions. I understand that. I think we all understand that to think that you're not going to have some kind of emotion at that moment, but to not be able to control yourself to the point where the 6 of you kill somebody, there is no justification at all once he's been handcuffed, once he's been subdued, for you to do anything else to him. I don't care if he was on drugs. I don't care what. Once he is handcuffed, once he is stopped, that is it. It ends right now. That's period. Right. I mean, look, if NFL players had to have restraint and nobody gets as worked up as them going against each other, you played football, you go up against somebody all day long, and then once that fight starts, if you're expected to control yourself at the height of your emotions and physicality, then a person who is trained, who is sworn, who has an oath, and knows you got a gun on your hip, then yes, it is absolutely acceptable and understandable that you must stop.
That's right.
And if you don't, then you should go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
You kill somebody, you should go to jail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, 6 cops, there were other cops there that were standing around, did not stop what was happening.
Oh, never saw that before.
Did not try to. I know. I mean, well, this is the problem, right? The problem is also, I mean, if we're going to take it to a whole nother level. So when do police departments not wind up becoming criminal mobs and criminal gangs, right? When they allow themselves to commit crime and then don't hold themselves accountable for the crimes that they're committing.
Right. Right.
So it's hypocritical to me, for example, when the police come out and say the community will not cooperate with us. And I'm like, well, the community is like, you will not cooperate with us in terms of turning over police officers that are committing crimes behind the badge.
Yeah.
That is a problem.
Well, and look, can I add to your ring of those who are complicit in this criminal mob?
Sure.
So it's not just the cops, it's not just the police union, but it is also elected officials.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's why I continue to say it must come. I mean, look, the CPOC is a first step. Mm-hmm. By no means do I think this is the be-all, end-all to oversight in Philadelphia.
Absolutely.
To me, that board should ultimately be elected directly from the people. It's not going to happen on this draft. I've come to acceptance with that. Mm-hmm. And it's an imperfect process in how it's starting. That's fine. But at a certain point, it doesn't even need to be under the control of city council or the mayor's office. It needs to be absolutely independent because, mayors have a political interest in policing. That's and right. They are thinking of how policing impacts, they have multiple calculations. How does this impact other unions? How does this impact my relationship with the Northeast? If I want to run again, I don't want to mess up here, but I can't go too far if I don't. I mean, look, we don't need that. And we don't need council people who are also thinking of being mayor one day, or they got to be accountable to whatever. You need a particular group that is only held to the community standard of how are you managing the police department. It is something that, like the school district, most cities have a school board that only oversees the schools, and that's their only concern. So we're not trying to say, let's create something that has never happened before. It happens every day, and nobody ever questions that there is a separate school board that raises its own money, that hires and fires its top exec, that oversees curriculum and policy and everything else. It happens every single day. And that's what we have to have in this city to prevent these kind of things, and not just in Philadelphia, but we need this all over. I rest my case, sir.
Talk about the town hall tonight, real quick.
Tonight, tune in at 7 o'clock. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Denise. I wish you had sent this to me early, but did you not go on? So tonight, 7 p.m. on Power Interface web Facebook page, we will be hosting again the second conversation, shifting the narrative around how gun violence is portrayed in the media Just take a look at today's news stories, and I'm going to tell you, it's kind of troubling how these stories are reported out. Denise James, former reporter with ABC, will be helping to lead that conversation with an award-winning team of journalists, along with our very own Elder Melanie DeBose. You don't want to miss it. Send it out to others as well as post it in the chat right there. It's going to be a great conversation. Don't miss it tonight, 7 p.m.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for the Power Hour for today. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. to bring you the latest in news, happenings around Philadelphia, and, of course, our opinions, which we have plenty of. Thank you, Reverend Tyler, for everything that you do for the show each and every day. Thank you, Kwesa, for holding down the boards, making sure that we are here and everything is working fine. Thank you to everybody that's listened to us on the air, through YouTube, through Facebook, through Alexa. Alexa, turn on WURD radio, and making sure that we are able to, that you're able to participate in the show. Stay tuned now for Wake Up with Word with Solomon Jones and family. Do us and yourselves and the rest of the world a favor. Go out, change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.